Earth, stone, and wood are part of a history that is tangible because we belong to these ancient cities. Some people say the ancient Silk Road would not exist without Chang'an and Rome. Others say that even if you know these two cities well, you may not be able to understand them. To me, the existence of these two ancient cities, with their histories of over 1,000 years, is a miracle. There are no other cities quite like these two. They are ancient, yet they never stopped moving forward. I am going to time travel between Chang'an and Rome in search of the great wonders that made these two capitals of civilization possible.
这是汉朝的长安城，它占地面积36平方公里，坐落在今天西安市的西北角。这是唐代的长安城，它比汉朝时候的长安城要大1倍多，在今天西安城的南面。这是今天的西安城，它建于明代，明清时候的西安城要比唐朝的小得多。
As we can see, irrespective of how history has transformed things, the city of Xi'an has barely changed location. The city was the capital of 13 dynasties, and it's amazing how unswerving the emperors were in their choice of location. These river names refer to the common thread underlying Chang'an's choice as a capital city, its position near water. The most important requirements for our ancestors were water resources, and even today, the demand for water resources remains. The 8 rivers of the Guanzhong Plain, which surround Chang'an City, have been nurturing residents here for generations.
这就是人们通常所说的八水绕长安。
However, water resources were not the only reason for Chang'an's success. Security was another motive for dynasties to choose this as their capital. With ravines, high mountains, and the natural barrier of the Yellow River protecting Chang'an on all sides, it was an ideal place for people to live happily throughout the city's long history. Coincidentally, people are surprised to find that Chang'an is at the geographical center of China today. On the far side of the globe, Rome was the center of the ancient Western world, with origins that seem even more mysterious. We are just over 10 kilometers away from Rome, but there are literally no plains at all. Why would the Romans build a city on such uneven terrain? We always say that Rome wasn't built in a day. So what really happened on the first day the city was built?
Alle nostre spalle abbiamo la collina storica più importante di Roma, il Palatino. Di fronte a noi invece abbiamo un'altra collina che è l'Aventino. Qui Romolo e Remo decisero le sorti della nascita della città. Videro il volo degli uccelli, interpretarono questo volo, vinse Romolo sul Palatino.
From the top of the hill, I could vaguely see the 7 hills of Rome. However, at the height of its power, the city had a population of about 1 million, and most of its supplies had to be imported. Rome was located in a hilly region that was difficult to access. Wouldn't that make transportation extremely difficult?
这是泰伯河的入海口，这里曾经是一个非常重要的口岸，这也是陆上丝绸之路和海上丝绸之路的交汇地。
In fact, the city was very close to the sea. The Tiber River flowing through the city served as a commercial link between the hilly area and the ports. It was this concept behind the settlement that led to the prosperity of Rome. It's interesting that the two ancient cities of East and West share such similar philosophies, building their cities near mountains and rivers. But this was just the start. as the two cities' histories made them evolve into the completely different cities of today. I will continue my quest to discover whether there does indeed exist a moment in history that changed both cities forever. Anyone who comes to Xi'an shares the same feelings as I do. It's a square city, from whichever direction you look at it. From ancient times to today, no matter how much the world has changed, the shape of this city has not. So why did it have to be so square? To answer this question, we have to start with an artifact.
这叫长安图。虽然它是宋朝时候刻在石头上的，但是它是参照了唐朝时候保留下来的资料，把当时整个长安城的这个布局非常精准的刻在它相对的这个位置上。
This is the earliest impression of Chang'an that we have. In fact, since the Zhou dynasty over 3,000 years ago, all cities in ancient China were built following a common blueprint called the Zhou ritual, the Book of the Craftsman. The capital city should be built within 9 square miles, with 3 gates on each side of the 4 sides of the city wall. The capital had 9 avenues north-south and 9 east-west, each allowing 9 carts abreast, a template for many dynasties to come. I couldn't help but wonder what was so great about the square-shaped city. The engraved steel alone couldn't provide the answer, so I really needed to see the whole city of Chang'an.
长安城看起来就是一个四四方方的一个大盒子，呈东西方对称的这种分布中间这是一条朱雀大街。城市规划都是沿着这个中轴线两边分布了很多的方，这个方是相当于这今天的居民小区然后构成了不同的这个区域，最后形成了一个当时世界上最大规模的一个都城。
We Chinese describe this regular-shaped urban layout as orderly. The residential, commercial and administrative areas are evenly distributed, so that the population can evenly spread out. Landscaping and public spaces were also well distributed, adding to the charm of the city. Roads and transportation intersected, making the city highly convenient.
这就是隋唐时候的这个长安城。
When I climb up on the city wall and look out over present-day Xi'an, I can appreciate the profound reasoning concealed within it by the ancestors.
这是西安城的中轴线。我们今天看到的中心线的两侧的建筑的布局，严格按照中国的这种古代的这种对称的这个美。
The quest for regularity has long been a pursuit in Chinese traditional culture. As people in the olden days would say, gentlemen need to be decent and upright. This pursuit is revealed through a refinement in construction, from generation to generation.
它非常代表我们的这个文明，代表我们的秩序和我们的这种礼乐制度。
When I arrived in Rome, it wasn't hard to see from the top of the hill that the city was roughly circular. With its concentration of hills and intersecting streets, it makes it difficult to detect an ordered system. So what is Rome really like? Was the city just randomly built? In fact, a complete structure of planning and layout from thousands of years ago is hidden beneath the disorderly surface. At the very middle of the city is the Forum. Then the political institutions and public facilities lie around the centre. The numerous commercial and residential districts are in the outer ring. Through history, Rome spread out like a pancake, gradually forming this huge and impressive 208 square kilometre city. But isn't this quite normal? Actually, it's not that normal at all, as everyone told me that Rome was, from the start, unique. It turns out that at the beginning of the founding of Rome, While other cities had palaces and temples as their centerpieces to emphasize authority, circular-shaped Rome had a series of open piazzas that belonged to the people. Every road in the city led to these central spaces that symbolized the common people. This unprecedented layout not only expressed their innovative spirit, but was also a manifestation of Rome's revolutionary emphasis on the people during the period of empire. A Chinese saying says, "Without rules, there are no standards," which precisely sums up the characteristics of both cities. Their square and circular shapes reveal the different concepts of city planning and organization for both Chang'an and Rome. Everyone knows that the Great Wall was built in ancient China. But did you know that the ancient Romans were also masters of construction? In fact, the city walls of ancient Rome were once universally recognized as a masterpiece. There are many ruins in Rome, and the ancient city walls tend to be overlooked. While I was hunting for them, locals pointed out the Aurelian walls of ancient Rome, a construction half like a building and half like a bridge. I was very curious to check it out. According to historical records, the walls were built in the 3rd century, with a total length of more than 20 kilometers. The average height of the walls was about 6 meters, with 18 main gates and 381 towers. After seeing it with your own eyes, you might wonder that since Romans were known for their excellent use of stone, why did they build their city walls in brick? More importantly, how would the walls be able to last more than 1,000 years? What is their secret? In fact, the bricks look fragile on the surface, but the real secret was hidden inside the wall. And the reason is cement, a superb building material that the Romans invented. Many people think that cement was a product of industrialization from the 18th century. So how did the Romans master this technology over 2,000 years ago? Thanks to the volcanic landscape of the Apennine Peninsula, the Romans discovered that they could make strong cement by mixing volcanic ash, lime, and seawater together. They then mixed cement and rock in proportion and filled it into the pre-built outer frame, and the impenetrable walls of the city were built. Scientists have discovered that ancient Roman cement was even stronger than today's cement, as the silicon and calcium in volcanic rocks gradually reacted with the salt in seawater to form a stronger material that lasted for generations to come. This famous Castle of the Holy Angel was the northernmost defensive fortress of the ancient Roman walls. When the Goths invaded, this wall was unbreachable for over a decade. The walls of ancient Rome managed to defend this civilization during a millennium of great change in Europe. Likewise, according to historical records, from the day Chang'an was built, its sturdy city walls have never once been breached head-on.
西安城墙特别高大，我们现在看到的是明清时候的建筑，其实隋唐的时候更高，更大，所以我们看到它建出那么高的城墙，它主要是用来这个防御。
So how were the walls of the ancient capital of Chang'an built thousands of years ago? By the ruins of the Hangguan Gate of the Sui and Tang dynasties, we could discern the true mysteries of this ancient wall.
这是唐朝时候的城门结构的残留部分，我们现在看到是局部，以前的城门比这个要高得多。这个城墙的，在后来的这个唐朝的变故当中，后来又被毁掉了很多。
The vicissitudes of history have unveiled the mystery of the city walls, and the truth behind the legends was revealed before me. In fact, this impregnable wall is made of very common materials. the lowest soil, which can be found everywhere in Xi'an Sea, is very fine and sticky. After being bashed and hammered, the mixture of lowest soil, lime and glutinous rice water made up a wall of many layers. When completely dry, rammed earth can also be as solid as rock. The material has been proven to be able to withstand modern explosives, let alone ancient weapons. I discovered that, like the ancient walls of Rome, the ancient walls of Xi'an were also encased in brick. This not only made them sturdier, but also provided excellent protection for the rammed earth against the weather. It's apparent today that the wide walls can still accommodate many tourists and vehicles. For thousands of years, the people of Chang'an used local materials and ancient building methods passed down from many generations to create a masterpiece of world architecture. One in the east and one in the west, the unique creation of materials by these two ancient civilizations have preserved these architectural wonders. People who visit Rome for the first time are always inquisitive about this tall bridge-like structure. What is it for? The answer may surprise you. It's an aqueduct. This was a lifeline of the city thousands of years ago. I read that although the city of Rome is on a river, locals long ago stopped drinking water from the river Tiber because of sewage. So it seems that finding solutions for its water supply long ago became the most important task for this metropolis of 1 million people.
In questo parco passavano 6 degli 11 grandi acquedotti che alimentavano Roma. Queste sono opere pubbliche, quindi soltanto lo Stato poteva avere la capacità economica per costruire queste infrastrutture così eccellenti, così importanti, così monumentali. Roma nel passato è stata la città che ha avuto più acqua a disposizione.
So the water facility is very, very great.
The Italian scholar told me that the city of Rome had 11 aqueducts, with a combined length of over 2,000 kilometers in its heyday. However, the hilly, uneven terrain made it impossible for water to flow naturally from the mountains to the city. So how did the Romans accomplish this nearly impossible task? The secret is hidden in this building. The ancient Romans thought of using sealed pipes as the first solution. They made large pipes or conduits out of stone or metal, sealing them with olive oil and cement. This would not only allow them to adapt to angles and inclines better than open channels and avoid leakages, but would also ensure even water pressure. But in the old days, there were no water pumps. How would they be able to make the water flow across the mountains? Hidden in today's bustling commercial centre of Rome, a little-known corner was the terminus for the water supply in the old days, and it contains the greatest secret of ancient Rome's aqueducts. That the water could climb slopes was down to the ingenious architectural designs of the ancient Romans. Descriptions exist in ancient texts. In a valley, a ramp would be built as long as possible, but one that was not too steep. In this way, more water could be accumulated and so would flow out from the other end to access the top of the mountain. This is explicable in terms of today's principles of fluid mechanics. It's undeniable that the design of historic Roman elevated aqueducts was highly scientific. The city of Rome has been well watered for so many generations with the help of such ingenuity. However, Chang'an was different. Since ancient times, the city had a well-developed water system with abundant underground water, as well as many rivers and interconnected waterways. Too much water could also create problems. From ancient times to the present, Chang'an needed to pay attention to the issue of drainage.
这就是周朝时候的排水管，它是5边形的，而且它首尾衔接，用那个泥土来连接。 这是秦代时候的排水管，这是陶瓷做成的，它是筒形的，一个套一个，首尾相连，中间还有防止渗水的粘合物。直到今天，它仍然是非常坚固，这比我们现在用的这个 PVC 的管子还要牢固。
According to research, the drainage system had existed for over 3,000 years in Chang'an. With highlands to the north and mountains to the south, it's very easy for water to accumulate on this low-lying plain. What's worse is that when it rains heavily in the summer, the rivers can also overflow. Throughout Chang'an's history, there however seems to be few recorded instances of serious waterlogging. So how exactly was the water drained?
1200多年前的排水系统，主要它用的这种砖土这样的一种结构。我们可以看到，建设不是一代两代，这是在隋朝之前，这里就是都城，然后在隋朝的时候逐渐的这个加固，到唐朝的时候逐渐就巩固下来了。
During the Sui and Tang dynasties, the drainage system of Chang'an City was designed in a very scientific way. Not only would there be open channels for drainage on both sides of the roads at street level, but this type of underground culvert, like the one in front of me, would be installed in the area to deal with the accumulation of water. These were interconnected to form a chessboard-like network beneath the city. It's still very efficient even compared to today's standards. Compared to the elevated aqueducts of ancient Rome, Chang'an City paid a lot of attention to its underground system. The Roman Forum is one of the largest ancient architectural complexes in the world. Some people may just see old ruins, but to me it can literally be called an encyclopedia of ancient Western architecture.
Rome is so beautiful, and there are many, many historical ruins.
What fascinates me most is the site not far from me here. It was once the most magnificent palace in the whole of ancient Rome.
What's the reason Emperor chose this hill in Rome?
Sul Palatino furono costruite le prime case della città. Dopo, su quella stessa zona che era simbolica della nascita della città, gli imperatori lo scelsero per costruire i loro palazzi. Quindi è un sistema costruttivo veramente nuovo, veramente importante e geniale.
Yeah.
This otherwise ordinary hill was once the center of power in the Roman Empire. If we take a bird's-eye view, we can easily see that the palaces built on the hill must have been extremely majestic and grand. But I'm curious to find out what made these palaces and buildings so regally magnificent. It was only when I got closer to it that I realized that it was these huge stone pillars that really amazed me. Roman stone pillars are a quite miraculous achievement in the history of architecture. Although pillars had long existed, it was the ancient Romans who used them to the extreme, creating the characteristics of Western palaces. The style, height, and arrangement of these pillars directly determined the final look of the building. So how exactly were they built? On the remnants of the museum's stone columns, I found some clues. It turns out that these behemoths were never a single piece, but rather a combination of many parts. It was certainly not an easy task to keep it standing. Historical records show that many wooden columns had to be driven deep into the ground, filled with fine materials and tamped down before even the foundation could be constructed. This formed a solid foundation for the base of the stone columns to be built. Then, section by section, the stone was hauled up, with heavier pieces below and more slender pieces above, using lifting equipment. These huge pieces of stone had to have these grooves on their surfaces for the columns to be perfectly aligned so that they could tower above you. I can't help but remark at the architectural skills of the ancient Romans from more than 2,000 years ago. When we look up at these tall palace buildings, we clearly feel that it was the stone pillars of ancient Rome that created the sense of grandeur and profound sacredness. If the Roman palace represents Western palace architecture, then the Daming Palace in Chang'an is the perfect example of Eastern palace architecture, and it is the most massive palace complex in human history.
这是唐朝的大明宫，它相当于3个凡尔赛宫、4个紫禁城、15个白金汉宫。
The palace complexes of the Tang dynasty were magnificent, not only in their unparalleled size, but also in their unprecedented architectural form. From the restored buildings today, we can see that these rectangular roofs with high eaves were a definitive characteristic. So what kind of magic formula was employed in these roofs?
大明宫这些宫殿，它就屋顶很重，是怎么托起来的呢？就是这些斗拱托起来的。这些斗拱越高，说明它的这个工艺水平越难。在当时的情况下，能够大量的使用这种榫卯和斗拱，反映了当时建筑技术的高超以及建筑工艺的精湛。
The Daogong is an amazing type of traditional Chinese architectural invention with a history of over 2,000 years. The brackets looked very thin and fragile, but they could provide a solid support for the horizontal beams that span the vertical columns by being cleverly interlocked. The Daogong managed to distribute the weight of the roof evenly over a larger area, over vertical columns. More amazingly, the Sunmao, or the mortise and tenon interlocking system within Daogong, invented by the Chinese more than 2,000 years ago, could provide solid support simply relying on pieces of wood joining together without nails or glue. I stand in awe of the astonishing wisdom of our ancestors. It was this ingenious creation that fashioned the majesty and elegance of the Daming Palace, making Tang Dynasty palace architecture from over 1,000 years ago so miraculous.